Hi, Lisa White, IVF coach with IVF Manifesting a Miracle, and I'm here with my good friend Mandy for a soul sister conversation. Hey, Mandy.
Yay!
We're
Soul
finally doing
sisters.
this.
I know. It's been so long, but it's gonna be fun because I don't know, soul sister. I do feel like kind of like soul sisters,
We
you know?
are. You're a dear friend. You're an OT colleague here in Colorado. We were just talking before recording, like, when did we meet? And I want to say it was around 2015.
I know it's been a while.
And like, this is such an exciting talk for me to have with you because I didn't even know until a bit later that like you two had a fertility journey of your own, and
Mm-hmm.
it's quite extensive. And I can't wait for you to share a bit of your story and like the lessons learned, struggles you
Yeah.
had, tips. I mean, there's so many good things that I'm excited to talk about today. So thank you for being here.
Heck yeah. No, yeah. We were just talking about like how everybody's journey is so different and how you internalize it, or like your experience is your experience. And I think there's so much to be shared through storytelling. So I'm happy to share mine, and hopefully some people can gain some insight or connection through that. So
Yeah, that's what these are all about, really heartfelt conversations, almost like we were sitting here, we're still living in COVID, right? But like if we were
yeah.
sitting across from each other and just having a chat, I mean, our stories do pull us together. And can you, as we were sharing, like remembering like what you have gone through, it's sometimes hard to like recollect, like, what was that time like in my life? And can you kind of take us back to that time in your life? I don't know what year this was when you started trying to become a mama and going through fertility challenges. But where to begin? Where would you like?
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. So I guess just kind of like wrapping up where I'm currently where I am is that I have identical twin boys and they'll be 8 in like 2 days. And then I have a daughter that's 9. So my kids are 13 months apart. I ended up I had I had not 13 kids, 3 kids in 13 months.
That's wild.
Which was crazy for me. And we can even talk a little bit about that. But and so my husband and I went through the whole thing, the journey of infertility. But prior to that, I was married before, and I was married from like 2003 to 2009. And my ex-husband and I started the infertility stuff back then, and it caused a lot of stress on our marriage. I'm not saying it's the only reason why. There was lots of other things. It didn't really work, but it definitely contributed because I grew up in a very small religious town. And he was from the same town. And it was kind of like you got married right out of college, you had kids right away. Like that was expectation essentially. And I really felt that pressure. And so I got married right away. And then couple years in, I mean, even just like first couple years, everyone's like, when are you guys having kids? When are you guys having kids? When are you guys having kids? And I was like, well, like I just went and got my master's degree. Like I went and did a lot of education. Like I want to work. Like I wasn't really there yet. And my ex was like, whenever you're ready. He wasn't having a lot of pressure, but there was still this always this underlying, like, when are you having kids? And I've always, even since I was a teen, had kind of like hormone imbalances and on, birth controls and trying to regulate my periods and my menstrual cycles. Like that's always been a challenge for me. But I never really thought about it in terms of infertility. I just was like, oh, I have these crazy periods and you know what I mean? And that kind of thing. So then my ex and I started trying to get pregnant, and it just wasn't kind of going anywhere. And so it was like the whole thing of, wait a year. You got to give it a whole year before we start. Right. And I was young. I was probably like 27, you know what I mean? Like I'm young to me, you know what I mean? 26, 20. I mean, I was in my late.
Yeah, it's very young.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, we waited the year. We ended up, I had endometriosis.
Did they tell you that pretty early on? Did you know that?
I didn't really know. Like, I look back, I feel like I had all the symptoms, but like no one ever really said that to me. And then we tried for a year, and then it was like this whole thing of still not getting pregnant, checking things out. They're like, okay, endometriosis. So I went, saw a specialist to have surgery. I could have surgery. So I had surgery, I had polyps removed, and they were like, that should be good. Well, it wasn't. And it just was a lot, like my insurance didn't cover it. It didn't cover any infertility treatments or surgeries associated with that. So it was like, okay, well, maybe we won't have kids, and it was just like, I wouldn't, like I said, it was just added stress to the already strained kind of relationship.
Right.
But looking back, it was like, thank God I didn't have kids with him, because it didn't work. And like, you always kind of like wonder and think about like, were we, trying to have kids because we were supposed to? Were we trying to like save a relationship? Like, it's like, it kind of draws in a lot of like emotion about that, trying to figure all that out, that I think I'll probably never really know.
So while you were with him, you did start, like, was it, you started with IUIs? And
nope, we didn't do any of that, because none of it was covered through our insurance. And so we were just like, I don't know, because I had the endometriosis surgery and I had some polyps removed, I think when I was with him, and I just didn't get pregnant. And like my insurance didn't cover any kind of any other infertility type of things.
So that's as far as you went with him. Okay. I didn't understand if it was
the second husband. Sorry, trying to make it confusing. But it was that thing is like, they checked at the time. They just, they said it should be good to go, but it just never happened. And so then we ended up getting divorced. And then 3 years later, met my husband. And I mean, at the time I'm trying to think, I was 32. That was 3 years later. See, so I was 32 and he was 42. And we were just like, if we're going to do this, we should do this. And he knew my history, with not, having difficulties and that kind of thing. But with my new insurance, I did have coverage for some infertility not treatments. They didn't cover IVF, but they would cover, I can't remember the exact terminology, but it was something along the lines of like they do surgery. They would do surgery for it, but they wouldn't do like IVF or IUI or, all the stuff after. Like they would fix me physically, but anything to, you know what I'm saying? Like it was insane.
I know, it's such a mix. What's covered, what's not.
What's covered and what's not. So we started, we're like, okay, we're going to try. And we started for, trying for a few months, and we ended up doing I actually, to be honest, can't actually even remember what it all came about, but I remember going in and getting tested for a Hydrocell pinks. So, and they said, yes, you have a Hydrocell pinks. You'll have to have surgery in order to fix it, because basically it's just putting in, it's not making a conducive environment for the egg to do its thing, right? And be fertilized, and it's not going to probably happen. So I ended up having another surgery. And what was crazy is I actually didn't even have a true Hydrocell pinks. I ended up having a lot, like 3 or 4 cysts on top of my fallopian tubes that were just like squishing the fallopian tubes down. They were just saying it just wasn't, but they cleaned me out for endometriosis again, which wasn't severe, but like, they're like, we're already in there. Might as well just removed the cysts on top of the fallopian tubes. Everything looked like it was flowing and that kind of thing. So then we waited another 6 months and it still wasn't happening, doing the whole, ovulation kits and, the whole typical things, which as probably anyone listening, that's exhausting, right? And it feels very forced.
And I get the foundation cleared. I mean, you're just trying to start, like figure out what's going on. So you had endometriosis surgery, you had polyp surgery, I can't even say the
hydrocell pinks.
Hydrocell pinks.
Yeah.
The cyst removal on the fallopian tubes, and then moving through, I mean, even the fertility treatments, right? Clomid, I mean,
did Clomid.
I think you've done it all.
Well, I did everything. I mean, at the time, I don't know what it currently is, because it's been, like 8 years now, but like, I kind of like did all the things except for IVF. So, we did the, Clomid, we did the gonadotropin injections with ultrasounds and 2 rounds of IUI. And we were just like, you know what, maybe it's just not meant to be. Like, I'm very much it was just so all consuming in my life for so long, but I'm also like, okay, surgery, let's get it done. Okay. What's next? All right. Doing Clomid. Okay. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
Next. And I almost like in a weird way, depersonalized it a little bit.
Detached, like you were so detached from it. Like, okay, let's just get the job done and check it off.
Checking off the list.
Experts too. It sounds like
and I guess maybe that was my coping mechanism, right? Like, but the things that hit me the hardest were the times with like, even the ovulation kits, I'd get so annoyed that they'd put in like a pregnancy test in there.
Yeah.
I'm just like, because I get my period, right? So I'm like, I don't need a pregnancy test, but I get so annoyed with that. Or like when you're dry, you're walking around. I remember going into Lowe's, like when you buy a new car and you see everybody that has a new car, right? It's like when you want to get pregnant, all you see are pregnant people everywhere.
I have friends and clients that are just like, that's one of the hardest parts. Like you want to now, and this is a something you cannot force. And I think you kind of let it go. It sounds like you just kind of like, okay, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. Not everybody can come to that point, but like you
100%.
kept staying on. And you shared with me, you did 3-time injections that caused too many eggs. Was that one thing that happened? And you quit everything. You're trying to figure out how to pay for IVF because it wasn't covered through your insurance. And then what happened?
And then we got pregnant. It's like one of those things. So by the time I got pregnant, I was 34. Just turned 34. And so my husband was 44. And we met when he was in his 40s. And he always wanted to have kids, but then he never felt like maybe that time was up for him too. And I feel like in a way that kind of helped because, and then he met me and then I'm like younger. Yeah. And so that was an interesting kind of dynamic, but like, it's just, it's exhausting mentally, physically, and and it's those things that people say, like the things people say, right? But just relax, like you're putting too much pressure on yourself, it will happen. And you're just like, But we literally was like, okay, like we're going to try to figure out how to do it. We're going to commit to 1 round of IVF. Like, we're like, okay, how can we make this happen? Because like you said, it wasn't covered through my insurance. And then I got pregnant, like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
when that happens, it's just like,
like my body.
Okay. So
yeah, it was just nuts. So, I got pregnant, had a healthy daughter. My pregnancy was really great. Which I felt very, obviously blessed.
She's almost 9, or she is 9, you said, right?
She's 9 now. Yeah. And then, like after we had her, and then you're like, okay, my body can do it. Like, oh my God, sweet, And so then when I was breastfeeding her and I was like, I I'm not going to go on birth control, because if we want to try to have another one, like, my husband's already 44.
Yeah.
I'm already 34. Like, we should, like, try it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll never forget, like, I was like getting back in shape after I had my daughter, and I was running a half marathon.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was before all the, pelvic floor stuff.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
That's a whole nother thing. But, like, so she was 6 months old,
Mm-hmm.
and I was doing this half marathon, and I trained for the half marathon kind of because I had an infant, but I did it because I'd done many before. And I did it, and I felt so terrible. Like, I was like, I didn't do well. I just felt bad, but I was like, like, I have a lot going on. But then I kept feeling bad. Like, days later, I was like, I feel just terrible. And I remember being in the shower, and my husband was working, and I remember taking the phone I don't know why, in the shower. And I'm like, I feel like I need to take a pregnancy test because I feel just terrible. And he was like, whatever. And I was pregnant
with a 6-month-old, right? You had a 6-month-old.
She was 6. Yeah. So yeah, it was insane. I was like, holy crap. We're like, okay, we'll have 2 close in age. Okay. That'll be all right. Wow. Okay. Like, crazy. Little did we know. And then I had to go in for early ultrasound because I didn't really have a regular period because I was breastfeeding. So I didn't really know how far along I was. I didn't know anything. And yeah, I remember my husband was there, and he's holding our 6-month-old, and they're like, there's a heartbeat and there's another one. And I'm like, what? And I actually started crying because I was like hormonal, and like, I was like, I wasn't ready mentally for it. Right.
Yeah.
It was just like a nutso thing. So then we ended up having identical twins naturally as well.
Mandy, that's so incredible.
It's so crazy. I guess, and like we were talking about a little bit earlier, it's just like, I don't know if it's just, I can talk about it now, and it feels like my journey. Like, it feels like this is what I did. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in it, that's not how I necessarily viewed it. Like I said, I do remember thinking like, okay, I got to get the surgery done. All right. Okay. What's the next step? But it's just, as you know, like, so all encompassing, right? Like, there's never a moment where you just like, I was, thinking about like my health and like, am I doing the right things? And am I like, how, like, I don't want to stress out because that won't help. And it was just like all the things. Right. And then being kind of sad that you're not pregnant, or it's just, there's so much emotion. But what is crazy to me when I reflect upon it is that in a way, I wouldn't say I feel grateful for the journey, but it was my journey, right? Like, it was my journey, and we ended up with this 3 kids that are amazing, that complete our family, and it was all like, I guess more than anything, it was all worth it. Right. Like,
you wouldn't change anything. You wouldn't change how it all came together.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I even think, like I said, even with my ex-husband and meeting my husband and like just all this stuff, I really see it as my journey. I see it as part of that's just helped me to be who I am today, I guess.
No, it's so beautiful. I think you're speaking to a lot of women, and what women often feel. It's like being, quote, on the other side. You've gone through this, you've had time to reflect, and you've shared that like infertility and those fertility challenges like never really leave you fully.
No.
You've had things happen too that we'll talk about with your husband. But I think like, you seeing it from a new set of eyes, right? Gratitude. And not everybody can get to that place. No. Maybe sometimes down the road. It's hard to see it when you're in it. Like, how can I be grateful for this right now? Right.
Oh, when you're in it, because like, even when we were talking about having this conversation, like I actually had to think about and like dig out a little bit, like, cause I kind of like, I'm not a big journaler, but like, I'm a big record keeper. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, what? I mean, cause I feel like I had so many things,
Yeah.
physically, that I've kind of been through, but you're just like, in a weird way, can't actually remember it all because it was just so much, and it's all of it, right? And all the specialists and doctors and ultrasounds and, medications. And I mean, I remember on my lunch break at work calling around for like the gonadotropin injections because I was paying them out of pocket. So I was trying to find like the cheapest ones I could find. That, I mean, it's all like, it was all the same manufacturer, but different places charge different. And I remember like trying to, like on my lunch break in a treatment room.
Because you're still working,
I'm still working, and you can only like do it during daytime hours. So it's just like those things that you do. And I kind of, like you don't forget it, but it just kind of like fades. It's just like a time of life. It's like those experiences and those emotions are always there, but it's also like, I feel like I'm just like at a new stage of life. Like I'm momming it like big time, right? Like I'm PTO in it. I'm the shuttle bus now. But gosh, it was a lot. It was a lot.
And you didn't have a lot of support when you were going through this, right? As far as groups or guidance or knowing people that had gone through this before, was it?
Right. No, I didn't know anybody that had gone through what I had been through. And, I was, like I said, all my friends already had kids, all my close friends, and they were supportive. Right. But like, there's something to be said about talking to someone that has been through it, or having someone to relate to, because they can try, and not saying that their support isn't important, because it is, but it's just a very different thing. And, I wasn't like secretive about it, but I also wasn't like telling everybody I'm going through. Like my coworkers didn't know. Like I had a really hard time. Well, when I started doing the gonadotropin injections, you have to get ultrasounds to see how many eggs are being dropped so you can do IUI. And I had 3 times, and then they adjust the medication based on how your body reacts to it. Like some people are super reactive. 1 month I'm like dropping, 8 eggs. I mean, I don't want to be Octomom, like, right. So, then they're like, you can't have sex. There's no, like, we're not doing IUI because like you have that many eggs. But I was doing those ultrasounds at my place of employment. So I had to tell my boss because I had to go and do it. That was really uncomfortable because I'm kind of private, like my friends knew. And
wow, ultrasounds at the hospital you worked at.
Yeah. And then people in the ultrasound department, the ultrasound techs knew. And I work at a small enough hospital that everyone knows everyone. And so it felt a little invasive, but it didn't make any sense for me to go somewhere else. And it was more expensive because, again, I was paying out of pocket because I worked there. So we got discounts, we paid up front, and the financial part of it. So that was really, I didn't like that. And they were so great and supportive, but they're like rooting for you. And you're just like,
oh my gosh,
I don't really want you to know. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it caused a lot of like anxiety and stress. And then I was
Let's talk about that. Like, how did you keep yourself in kind of like a sane spot? I mean, having a background as an OT, did that help you in any way? Did you think about like ways to help yourself through this in the best way you could? Or like,
well, I don't, Not necessarily. I think the biggest thing for me is, like I said, I think I ended up kind of compartmentalizing a bit, which maybe isn't always the best way to handle it.
Like
but
that was a part of your life, like, okay, health,
medical, this is,
and I'm working, this is my work brain going on,
mhm,
marriage.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of had to, like I said, I had to tell my boss, and I didn't like him knowing. It wasn't because anybody wasn't supportive. It's just the whole thing of like, you know, like going through it and then not getting pregnant, or, you know, I didn't want anybody asking me like, are you pregnant yet? Or like, you know, the ultrasound tech, I remember her face when they were like, there's like, you know, 8 eggs, and she, you know, she knew, which obviously you'd have the radiologist read it to tell you technically, but we all knew, you know what I mean?
When that happens, what happened when they told you had 8, then you couldn't do an IUI, or how did that work?
You can't do an IUI, and I couldn't have sex because you don't want to accidentally get pregnant.
That happened 3 times where they like overstimulated you?
Yeah. I mean, then what happens is like, so for me anyway, and like I said, this is 10 years ago now, so maybe things are different. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But the time is, so they give you amount of medicine. I do the injections, you know, and then when I'm ovulating, what it does is it makes you drop more eggs. And so you go in, you get an ultrasound done. And if the medicine, or if you're sensitive to the medicine where your body's like, holy crap, I'm going to, you know, get these going. You can't do IUI because, I mean, you don't need lots of live or, you know, viable eggs in there. So then they're like, no sex, no IUI. And you're like, okay. And the reason why we did the gonadotropin injections with the IUI is because it was way cheaper than IVF, but we still had to pay out of pocket. So you're like, okay, maybe you know exactly that there's, you know, 2 good eggs on there, and then, you know, then you do IUI, you know what I mean? You do the whole thing. But so then from there, they're able to adjust the medicine that you inject because based upon how many eggs and your reaction to it. And so, I mean, they were really minutely changing the medication so I wouldn't have so many. And I just was super sensitive to it. So
the hormones were affecting you quite a bit.
Yeah. And I mean, like I've always had crazy hormone fluctuation.
Yeah, me too.
Emotional things, you know, like, and just really sensitive to that my entire life. Crazy wild periods. Like I said, probably was endometriosis even when I was young, maybe, I don't know, but you know, it's just like, that's always been a common theme that just, when I get it, it's like, you know,
you don't have to go down the road of IVF. It's way more expensive. And that was what we had to go through. We skipped IUI, we skipped Clomid. They're like, yep, you need IVF. Lucky and everybody didn't have to go through that.
And I think it's just like everybody's situation so different and where they are. And, you know, I mean, I know that if we would have had insurance, you know, and I could maybe have afford it. We probably would have went there sooner, but we were just like, everything's cleaned out. My fallopian tubes are flowing. Like you're physically, there should be no reason, right? Like my husband was, you know, was healthy. Like they tested him as well. Like everything, like ideally, like you should be good to go. I'm like, why is it so hard? You know,
maybe it helped you in getting pregnant naturally, right? It all led to
that.
So
So
fast forward to today, and when, you know, we've chatted, you've had some recent surgeries that you've still had to endure since going through all of that, and you have 3 beautiful children. But like, tell me just a little bit of like what you've had to go through during COVID, right? During this time.
I'm trying to think.
Did you have a recent surgery too, or no?
I did not have recent surgery.
Oh, I thought you had like
No, I didn't have recent surgery.
okay.
No, just, I mean,
Just some
like,
pelvic things.
yeah, just pelvic things. I mean, like even like during COVID, even like they thought I had endometriosis again.
Oh,
This is a
nightmare.
crazy story. Listen to this. This is a
Oh
crazy story.
no.
So I was having a lot of nerve pain and back pain
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
and pelvic. Well, it started out with tons of pelvic pain.
Yeah.
And so I was seeing a pelvic physical therapist because it started as pelvic pain. And then my back kind of nerve pain down my leg. I was having some weird stuff with that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like the tests were really like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I was seeing a pelvic PT, nothing consistent. And so then they were thinking I had endometriosis again. I had this endometriosis surgery set for December of 2020.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you were going to have something.
Yes. And what's crazy is I actually ended up in the hospital with a herniated disc.
Oh.
And because I was had my endometriosis surgery set up. And then prior to that, I had an MRI set up just to kind of see if endometriosis, you can't really see, but they were trying to see if there was like, it was pulling on anything or whatever, or they were just kind of looking at trying to see if they could find some abnormalities. Mm-hmm. And that ended up in the hospital with a herniated disc, which was insane. But that was what was causing my pelvic pain. So, because a lot of times you can have pelvic pain creating back pain because it can kind of creep. Yeah. But this time it was back pain causing pelvic pain. So, I mean, I saw a pelvic PT for months.
So is that all kind of cleared up? It's all cleared up kind of now.
After I was in the hospital for like 4 days, like it was crazy. And then I did physical therapy for my back. My symptoms didn't really match things well. And so that's why I think it was really tricky, but went through regular PT for my back and then my pelvic pain eased, which is scary to think that I was going to go in again for endometriosis surgery because it's exploratory. I mean, it's still, even now it still is, because I've, had some ovarian cysts kind of like first in the last couple of years. And I think, and it just, that kind of started the pelvic pain thing. And so then you just kind of assume that's what's going on. And that's scary to assume, like we all assume, because you just feel like you know your body, right? And then you're in the medical field and you're like, I don't know, is this it? I can research the heck out of anything, right?
You're speaking to so many important things. It's about knowing your body, just having that self-awareness if something doesn't feel right. And I think for anyone, whether you're trying to conceive or not, just like knowing your body, knowing if something doesn't feel good, to get it checked out. And you were very in tune with your body.
Yeah. But even just that, just that experience of you're seeing this doctor, you're seeing that doctor. It's not the same as infertility, but you're just seeing so many people and you're trying to gather as much information as you can. And it's really challenging because, maybe there's contradiction of opinions and like, who do you trust? And like, it's really hard, right? Just in general, but like you said, kind of knowing your body and saying, I know something's not right.
And being an advocate for getting it checked out and exploring for the right provider, the right PT.
It's so hard. Yeah. Between finding the right provider that you trust, insurance coverage and payment, right? Being able to get into them, like sometimes it's months, right? And it's just like the barriers, but you do have to keep persevering, I think, keep moving forward. Because no one's going to do it for you. And that's the thing about all of this is like, no one is going to do this for you. So you have to be ready and committed the best that you can. Learn as much as you can. I feel like was helpful for me because that makes me feel in control of something I'm not in control of.
Exactly.
And so when I feel educated, even if it's self-education, like that makes me feel a little bit more calm. I think that's with the whole, like, okay, I know I have to do surgery this 1, 2, 3. I think that makes me feel in control, even though I'm not. And that helps me because I feel like educated and I know what to expect and I know what the next steps could be. And those kinds of things help me.
Yeah.
Through
You're
the
empowered.
whole,
You're staying empowered
yeah.
through this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that you and I both have a medical background. So sometimes it's like, we know too much about all this, right?
Too much is not, yes, I agree.
But you've been an occupational therapist for, is it 19 years?
19 years.
I'm like at 21 years now.
Gosh, it flies by, huh? Like,
oh gosh. Yeah, you created so many incredible things. I just want to highlight, and I probably should have started with that in the very beginning, but the creator of a podcast called OT Flourish and created a membership lab for occupational therapy practitioners to learn more about, resources and data, research, evidence-based practice, like so many tools, and what you're creating is so needed and so special. I just admire so much of what you're doing. And you're still working, right? You're still working in consulting, and tell us what you're doing these days.
Non-traditional roles, consulting, filling in a little bit here and there. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is helping other OT practitioners and students feel empowered. I think that's the thing, like when you feel overwhelmed or out of control, like, okay, I can't control all of it, but I am like, okay, I have something and support, right? Having that support or someone that's been through it or is willing to listen and help is huge in so many areas of life and work. So yeah, I started that as well. Well, I started all of this, my website and everything, because I had 3 infants, and and really, no,
3 infants starting a business. I mean, right there.
That's the best time to do it. I mean, I don't know I think part of it was almost like my creative, I couldn't really work. We couldn't find daycare. Yeah. We don't have family. My husband and I, neither one of us have family here. I mean, so I was kind of forced to stay home for a while, even though that really wasn't my plan. Like, I didn't really want to completely stop working. That's just not kind of who it was at the time. And so I just kind of, was trying to figure out how I could pivot. And so, yeah, I created all these resources for other occupational therapy practitioners and students. So it's just been a crazy fun journey. So
interesting how our paths and like the struggles that we saw and the things that we saw were lacking. It's like, I think that's why you created what you're offering. It's like you saw something missing, and I've pivoted a bit from traditional OT doing more coaching in this space, and I saw this emotional need. It just was lacking. I'm like, and it kind of drives us, and that creativity, that spark, right? Like, I knew I had to do this. I was following this passion in my heart.
Yeah. And that's, I think, one of the best ways to create a business, if you can, right?
Yeah, totally. I know you started out with more focusing on older adults. And it's grown, it's evolved. And that's like, what's great about being an entrepreneur, right? Like, what you might start out with isn't ultimately what it ends up being. And it's just like changing, and you change with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you see what you want to create? Do you just want to keep doing more podcasting, more creating your membership, expanding that, reaching people? I mean, you have people around the world.
Yeah. All over the world. Yeah. It's crazy. And it's so fun. I think the biggest thing is, like, right now I'm really still focusing. I am updating like my membership and trying to just make it really more laser focused and easily accessible, and staying up with the times with software is crazy in itself, right?
Yeah, I know.
So that is our big project that I'm working on right now, is just updating the website. So and that's a big project. Big project. Yeah. Because we have hundreds of members from all over the world. And it's so cool because then you can connect and, you can talk with other occupational therapists from Indonesia or Iran or, France, and really get a good, I never will say an understanding, learn about
Yeah.
what it looks like in other countries is really like
Yeah.
kind of one of my favorite things. So
I
it's
love
cool.
that. And your website, share with everybody or how
Yeah, it's
people find you?
otflourish.com. It focuses on like occupational therapy for older adults mainly, and helping other OT practitioners and things like that. So
Love it. You're on social media, Mandy Chamberlain.
Mandy Chamberlain, OT Flourish, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. I try not to dabble too much, but I can't help it. Like,
Of course, right?
it's
You follow
fun.
the creative spark. You gotta like
Yeah.
put it
Mhm.
everywhere, right?
Yeah.
No, you inspire me in so many ways. So I would
Oh,
love to
thanks.
see you in person. I know we're here in Colorado. You're closer to you're near Aspen,
Other
right?
side. Yeah. The
Carbondale.
other side of the state.
The other side.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because everybody's like, you're from Colorado. Everyone always thinks Denver.
Right.
Oh, I'm in the mountain town. So like just head west, just head
Oh,
west.
it's beautiful. I just did a getaway to Salida recently. It was so nice.
It's so nice.
I did a solo
Yeah.
road trip for just a weekend. And I think every mom, and if you're not even a mom, like just, you need to have your alone time and just a mini getaway. It was the most healing, like restoring thing I've done in a long time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I just went by myself and stayed at a friend's place while she was in Denver, and it was great. So self-care,
Self-care.
ourselves.
Self-care, 100%.
Well, I just so appreciate you like vulnerably sharing what you've gone through. Like, I don't think many people have heard your story.
Yeah, probably not.
About your journey. And I'm honored that you shared with me. So
no problem. Well, thank you.
Yeah. So if anyone has further questions, feel free to drop them here. And if you'd like some support as you're navigating through IVF and the emotional roller coaster, I'm here for you and provide soulful coaching, fertility support to help you navigate this ride. So I'm at ivfmanifestingamiracle.com. And thank you, Mandy, again for this awesome soul sister conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hi, girl.